Week 10, and this is your Tuesday video. I have a game that we're going to play. This is called the mystery object in this big bag that I have in front of you. I'm going to be reading some adjectives, and I'm going to see if you can guess what's in this bag just based on the adjectives that I provide for you, okay? So I've got 7 adjectives. Try to guess what object might be in the bag. So the first adjective is super. Then we've got costumed, heroic, caped, fast, strong, and I'm going to change this one. I think this one was 2. I can come up with another one. Yeah, well. I'll keep it. And laser is your last one. Okay. So, what do you guess I am thinking of? What could be in my bag? Let me grab it. Did anybody think of Superman to describe him? Well, he's got laser vision, so that's a good adjective. He's very strong and fast as he flies. He is caped, as you can see, and heroic. He's costumed, and he's super. Okay, so now you've got the idea of what I was thinking of. Let's do another one. Okay, my adjectives for this one are jolly, red, bearded, giving, twinkle, and soot covered. Okay, do you know what I might be thinking of, students? As I did you guess Santa Claus? Let's see if the adjectives do work to describe him. Soot covered, sometimes when he goes through the chimney. Often find that he has a twinkle in his eye. Of course, he's very giving. And bearded, for sure. He does wear a lot of red. And probably the adjective that is most used to describe him is jolly. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Next one. This is a little trickier. Okay. Now I'm getting more challenging on you. My adjectives are fragrant, growing, colorful, pretty, spring-like, fresh, and arranged. Any ideas what I might have here? Okay, let's see. Flowers. Did you guys get this one? So they are arranged, right, in a vase. They are fresh. And even though these are fall colors, they just make me think of spring, right? Spring-like. They're pretty and very colorful. Growing was a little tricky because they're not growing anymore. But yes, they smell awesome. This adjective means that they smell good. Okay, so fragrant. All right, I have one more in our mystery object game. This is my hardest, I think. I don't know how well I did on these adjectives. Okay, so we've got wise, big-eyed, feathered, white, well, better change that because I'm just realizing that the one I was thinking of might have been white, but mine isn't. Gray instead. Okay. Nocturnal. Stealthy. And messenger. What did you think, students? Okay, the object that I've got here is an owl. How many of you got that? He is a messenger bird, okay, for some schools. He is very stealthy. He's a really good hunter, isn't he? And can sneak up on his prey pretty quickly. He is nocturnal in that he stays awake at night and sleeps during the day. Some are white, but this one is gray. He is feathered. He does have very big eyes. And he is wise. That's probably the word that we most often associate, isn't it, as an adjective with owls. How does anyone know they're wise? I don't know, but they look wise, I guess. So good job, students. That was fun. All right. So you can kind of use adjectives to really help you describe something or imagine what something is about. We're going to play a quick spelling game, and this is called Wheel of Fortune. So here I am, is Vanna. I have this puzzle here for you to solve. Okay, it's got 4 letters. So it is one of our spelling words that has 4 letters. Okay, that's a clue. I have taken some letters here, and I have picked out the 4 letters that belong to our puzzle, as well as about 7 random letters, and I mixed them all up and put them back together. I do not know what order they're in, but what we're going to do is I'm going to write the letters that belong to the puzzle up here. Okay, I'm going to write the letters that do not belong to the puzzle down here and start to build a hangman. We're going to see if you can fill the puzzle before or solve the puzzle before I hang somebody. And all I need is a head, a body, 2 arms, and 2 legs, okay? So, let's see how we're going to do. There is a Y in your puzzle, students, okay? There is not a G. There is not an M. There is an O. There is not a J. What was the other one that I missed? M. There is a U. There is not an E. There is not an L. Oh, I've only got 1 more leg. Do you know what the puzzle solution is, students? There is an R. Oh, dang it. You solved the puzzle first. Y, O, U, R. Your. Okay, good job. We'll play Wheel of Fortune again. Make it more tricky in our next puzzle. But what does your mean? When would you use your? Okay, would you use it to say blank late? Would you use it to say blank late? No, bzzz. That is wrong. Why not? Because that would be the contraction, wouldn't it? You apostrophe R-E. You are late. You're late. Late does not belong to you. Okay? How about, would you use it to say blank family? Yes, you would. That is correct. We'll do a smiley. Why? You are family. I guess you could say you are family. You could do it for both of them, couldn't you? But you could also say your family, meaning the family that belongs to you. So that was a little tricky example because both of them would work. Your family to me. We are like family. Your family. Okay? You are family. Or your family is awesome. I love your family. Meaning the family that belongs to you. Okay, could you use the your in our puzzle in the word, or connected with the word school? Yeah. How about the other one? Could you use the other one in this one? Your school. Yeah, the school that belongs to you. Could you use this one? You are school. No, that does not make sense. Nobody is the school. Okay. So just that possessive your. Okay. All right. Now I have, now we're done practicing spelling. I want to tell you about the next Roman emperor. Really easy. After Caesar died, Rome did not know what to do. Okay. Fights broke out. Rome was a mess. Nobody was in charge. Caesar's nephew Octavian was only 19 when Caesar died, but he had inherited all of Caesar's money, and he was Caesar's adopted son. So he took Caesar's money, pretty smart guy, and threw a big party in memory of Caesar. The party lasted for 10 days, and the whole city of Rome was invited. Then Octavian gave presents and money to every poor family in Rome. He was buying votes pretty much already, okay? The people of Rome loved him because he was so generous, and the army loved him because he was Caesar's adopted son. When he saw how popular he was, Octavian went to the Senate and demanded to be made a consul. Well, they didn't want him to be because they were worried about the same thing happening as happened with Caesar, but the army wanted him, the people wanted him, and the Senate was too afraid to say no. Okay, so he didn't make the same mistake. It says that Caesar did. He didn't demand to be called king. So instead he called the Senate together, and he says, I've made Rome bigger and wealthier than ever. Now there's peace all over the Roman Empire. No one is fighting. No enemies are attacking us. Rome is strong and healthy. So I have decided to quit my job. I don't need to be consul anymore. I won't lead the army anymore. You can be in charge from now on. Wow. So the senators were horrified. So after he'd ruled for a while and done all these great things, they were like, oh, we kind of like you. No, if you stop being consul, Rome will fall apart again. Please stay on. No, Octavian said. Rome shouldn't be king, and if I stay, people will want me to be king. I'm just a Roman citizen like everyone else. We won't call you king. We'll call you first citizen. So they voted to make Octavian the first citizen of Rome. In Latin, the word princeps means first citizen, and our English word prince comes from princeps. So the prince is like the most important person in the country. Even though Octavian was called first citizen, he ended up acting like a prince. He really, was, he was power hungry too a little bit. Senate gave Octavian a new name. His old name was Octavian Caesar, but his new name was Augustus Caesar. Augustus means blessed and majestic. Those are two pretty good adjectives. To show how much they honored Augustus Caesar, the Senate even decided to name a month of the year after him, and it was the month of August. They also agreed to name a month of the year after his adopted father, Julius Caesar, and that was the month of July. Okay. Augustus Caesar was the emperor, even though he called himself the first citizen. He was in charge, and there was a long period of peace during his reign. It was called the Pax Romana, and that meant the Roman peace all across the Roman Empire. People could live in safety without worrying about barbarian invasions. They could work out in their fields, raise their animals, travel back and forth between Roman cities, and even sail on the Mediterranean Sea without being attacked. During this time, in the days when Augustus Caesar ruled over Rome, a girl named Mary lived in Nazareth. And she and Joseph had to travel when she was pregnant, the story that I'm sure you've all heard, to Bethlehem to be taxed because of a decree by Augustus Caesar. So that's kind of cool how that all ties together, July and August. Get to learn about the blessed and majestic Augustus Caesar. Yeah, I want to read to you Colipone's story as we finish up, and we're going to find out how this decrepit, old, dusty, and disgusting bookshelf is a wonder of the world. And the title of Colipone's story is The Rainmaker's Revenge. This here bookcase once held the secrets of the universe, and it saved a couple of lives to boot. You probably never heard of Henry Upton, but folks up in Garnerville did. That's in Garner County on the Garner River, about 50 miles north of here. Say, they like the name Garner there, don't they? They had themselves a grand old drought when I was a boy. One year was dry, and the second year was drier. The third year, there wasn't enough rain to wet a postage stamp. The famous Garner County corn was as shriveled as the dead old tree stump out front, and the river had no more water in it than you could squeeze out of a rock. Things looked bad for the farmers, I'll tell you that. Around that time, a fellow named Henry Upton moved to town. Nobody's seen the likes of him before. He wore a genuine top hat like Honest Abe Lincoln. He was a president once, you know. Some said Upton was a professor. Some said he was a traveling magician. Some said he was the son of one of the richest families back east. He moved into a cabin up on Rooster Ridge, the highest point in Garner County. He brought along a wagon load of fancy furniture, crystal lamps, horsehair sofas, and such. And he brought this here bookcase. Might have looked fancier then, but it's the same one. The shelves were crammed with books, and the spaces where there weren't any books were filled with jars and bottles of smelly crystals and cloudy liquids. He didn't work the land, just read all day long. Uppity Upton, they called him from the start. Yes, sir, one day this Uppity Upton took himself down to the Garnerville Town Hall and walked right into the town board meeting like he was invited, which he was not. He stood there with a big smile on his face and made the board an offer. He promised to make it rain on Garner County. If he did, they'd have to pay him $500 an inch. He guaranteed them 10 inches for $5,000. Those board members thought he was funny in the head. Even the mayor broke down and laughed. What are you going to do, Uppity? A rain dance? Henry Upton had long gangly arms and legs and a round middle, and so the idea of him dancing had the whole town board laughing. Uppity stayed calm and waited until they quieted down, and then he said he was going to use scientific methods. That made the board members hoot and holler to beat the band. Uppity raised his arms to quiet them down. You only pay me if you get results, he told them. You can't lose on this deal. Whoa, Nellie, that got them to thinking. Some of them were ready to sign him right up. The mayor argued that even if it did rain, there was no way Upton could prove it was because of him, and not the Lord God Almighty. Uppity got real uppity and said, apparently God has not seen fit to make it rain around here so far. How much longer are you willing to wait? Yee-haw, that got the Garnerville Town Board folks thinking. Some said they couldn't afford to let their corn crops wither away. Others said it was wrong to fool with nature. Some said Upton was a crackpot. They said it right to his face. The place was in an uproar, and Upton's face grew purple. Does this mean you're turning down the deal? He asked. The mayor stood up and looked at Upton eyeball to eyeball. You're damn burned right we're turning you and your harebrained scheme down. With that, Upton left, mad enough to bust his fancy gold buttons. The next morning he built a platform on Rooster Ridge. He built a brick fireplace with a huge chimney pointing straight up at the cloudless sky. And over the platform he built a roof to protect the fire from rain, which there was none, of course. It was like a house without walls. Next he built a fire and started pouring strange, smelly powders into the flames. Smoke the colors of the rainbow rose up out of that fire and kept on rising all the way up to the sky. Yes, indeed, he rose halfway up to heaven. The folks around Garnerville were watching every move he made. They saw him take a cot out on the platform and some blankets, and by Jehoshaphat, he slept there all night, getting up to add his secret potion every few hours. The fire never went out, morning to night, night to morning. Exactly 48 hours after the fires began, the clouds rolled in over Garner County. Those clouds opened up and poured down rain. It didn't rain cats and dogs. It rained cows and horses, lions and tigers. Boy, it rained elephants and giraffes. The Garner River began to rise. The seed corn began to sprout. They were celebrating in the kitchen of every farmhouse for 50 miles. Uppity gave the town board a bill for the first 5 inches. And did they pay Uppity? They talked about it. While the rain gushed down, they chatted. While the brownstone bridge washed out, they discussed. While the sprouted seed corn washed away, they argued. While 2 farmhouses slid into the Garner River, they debated. Meanwhile, Henry Upton kept that fire a-burning night and day, and the rain kept pouring down. Finally, one day he'd stopped long enough to trot down to the board meeting, which had been going on for the better part of a week, and demanded his payment in full. The mayor said, "We never made a deal with you, Upton. Maybe it was going to rain anyway without your hocus pocus. We're not paying you a penny." This time, old Uppity didn't argue. He went back to Rooster Ridge and piled on more logs and added more concoctions to that old fire. Purple and blue smoke billowed up from the chimney all day and all evening. When the lightning bolts lit up the sky, people could see Uppity tending that fire, with like a mother tending her newborn babe. 5 more inches drenched the town that night. 5 more inches the next day. 5 more by the morning after that. That night, the dam broke, and the mayor's house was flooded up to the 3rd floor. He and his family floated their way to the town hall in their bathtub. Half the town board was there already, yowling like a bunch of soggy cats. For once, everybody agreed on one thing. They had to get Uppity to stop his rain-making. They floated their way to high ground, then slid their way through the mud up to the ridge. "Stop right there, Upton!" Mayor shouted when he got to Uppity's place. "Have you no mercy?" Uppity smiled at the mayor. "Nice as you please. I'm glad to see you admit that this weather is due to my rain-making abilities," he told the mayor. "I take it you brought my payment of $5,000 along." Well, sir, this time the mayor's face turned purple. "I'm not paying you a penny, Upton. Now stop what you're doing, or we'll have to stop you." "I'll stop," Uppity told them. The mayor and the board members and the sheriff all looked relieved until Upton added, "Pay me $10,000 and I'll stop right now." Uppity held a jar of crystals over the fire, ready to pour some more on. There was a dead silence until, boom, a huge thunderbolt clattered overhead and the whole kit and caboodle made a beeline out of there. Uppity kept on mixing and pouring, not stopping to eat or sleep. He was an angry man, ready to get his revenge on Garner County. But he wasn't the only angry man. Down the hill, the mayor gathered together the sheriff and the board and the farmers whose houses had washed away, and they all slogged back up the ridge mad as wet hens or maybe drenched roosters. Hee-haw! They carried pitchforks and shovels and any mean-looking things they could find, and they made a circle around Uppity and his fireplace. "What's the meaning of this?" Uppity asked. "You've got 5 minutes to pack up and get out of here. We want you across that country line tonight," the mayor growled at him. Uppity argued until the mayor pointed the sharp prongs of his pitchfork at him. "Here's your payment, Upton, if you don't get now." Well, Upton prepared to get. The sheriff's deputies had already dropped the bookcase onto the wagon, along with a trunk full of clothes. The fancy furniture and the crystals got left behind. Uppity hopped onto the wagon, gave the reins a slap, and galloped toward the Garner County line. Halfway across the Garner River, the bridge collapsed, sending Uppity, his wagon, and his horse straight down into the churning waters. The wagon sank like a brick, and the horse was swept away. The bookcase landed upside down, and all the books and powders and whatnot were lost. But that old bookcase floated, and Uppity hung on for dear life as the water carried him downstream. He was moving so fast he never noticed when he passed the county line, and after a while the rain stopped. Next morning, as things started to dry up, the sheriff saw those books and bottles floating in the river and figured Upton was floating there too. His body was never found. Leastwise, not by anybody in Garner County. I found his body. But it was a living, breathing body. I was just a boy doing some fishing down where the Garner meets Liberty Creek River. I never seen the river swelled up so, and I was young enough to think all that rain would bring the fish right to the surface. My eyes about bugged out of my head when I saw the floating bookcase. As it reached that fork where the rivers meet, the bookcase got caught up on some rocks. Henry Upton sat up and rubbed his eyes. Somewhere in the night he'd flipped the bookcase over and floated the rest of the way lying inside, dozing safe as a chick in its nest. He was a muddy chick, though, mighty bedraggled. "Help pull me over, boy, quick!" Uppity yelled at me. I threw him a big stick, which he used to pull the bookcase closer. He jumped out and waded ashore, dragging the bookcase behind him. When I asked him what had happened, he said he'd tell me the whole story if I found him dry clothes and a hot meal and get him to the nearest train station. Seems Uppity was smart enough to sew his money into his coat, and he had plenty of it, too, 'cause he'd earned money all over the U.S. of A. making rain for folks in trouble. Folks who paid him plenty, unlike the folks in Garner. Ma cooked him dinner, and Pa gave him some clothes. The man said his rain-making days were over, and he was going to some island where it never rains a drop. And he left the bookcase with us, and Pa took him to the train station. And that's the last I ever heard of one Henry Upton. Hee-haw! How's that for a wonder, boy? I couldn't tell if the story was over because Cully kept on chuckling and slapping his knee. When I thought he was finished, I asked him, "Did Upton tell you how he did that rain-making? You'd make a fortune if you could do it." "I never even asked," Cully said. "If you'd seen that poor half-drowned critter peering up out of that bookcase, you wouldn't have asked either. I believe in leaving well enough alone, my boy." Just as I glanced up at his saggy ceiling, it gave out a loud creak. Even calm old Sal jumped up, startled like, but Cully didn't even blink an eye. "Still, that there's a wonder, ain't it? A wonder of the world." Cully stared up at his bookcase as if he were seeing it for the first time. It held the secrets of the universe, saved a man's life, and it's holding up my house today. "A wonder," I said. "After all, even the Great Pyramid never held up a man's house." I was jotting the story down fast as rain began beating against the windows of the sagging shack. Poor Jeb was hunkered down under a piece of canvas that covered the woodpile when Sal and I finally came outside. "Did you get any chocolates?" he called out. "Something better. I got a wonder," I shouted back. "Come on, let's run." With Sal in the lead, we raced between the raindrops back down to Yellow Dog Road. "It's a wonder you're still alive," Jeb told me along the way. "You don't know the half of it," I agreed. Hey, students, what do you think about that? Did this Henry Upton make the rain, do you think? Did he have some kind of rain-seeding chemicals? All right, can they put chemicals in clouds to make them rain? Do you know? You could do some research about that. See if you can figure out what was going on there. Kind of interesting. The Cully Pone thinks it's pretty amazing when he shows this bookcase. Well, thanks for listening, students, and we'll pick up some more tomorrow and with some more spelling activities and adjective work. So good luck with your action items, and we'll catch you then.